The exposure and the affection the students had with Baba, and the angle at which we approached Swami and we saw him was completely unique. That there would be no end to it if you pick up every student who stayed there for a decade or more and listen to their stories. Each one of them will have a rich treasure of stories, just the way I'm telling you. It's not just I was the only one. Every student has something to offer, and even now when we meet at Baba's retreats, old students, we say, wow, did this happen to you? And we exchange stories. I mean, I like telling stories where I'm involved, so that way it's 100% authentic.
Yeah.
He turned around, he had materialized vibhuti inside the interview room, so his fingertips were full of vibhuti. So he turned around, not a word, but he turned around and put that vibhuti on my forehead, walked into the room and shut the door.
You must have just died.
I'm still alive, aren't I?
I don't know.
I take home a fantastic message from that. When we think we are praying, we are so full of ourselves and what we want and what has to happen to us, that our prayers never reaches the divine source within us. Yet, when my mind silenced itself, he knew exactly what I wanted, and the answer was right there. I think that's so powerful. The quote that we read is, in the depths of silence, the voice of God can be heard. That means you can hear God's voice. But he's now telling us, it is in the same depths of silence that I can hear your voice. No audience, no spectators, no TV cameras, no limelight, nobody to see these moments where he would give up anything and everything to touch or transform a boy. That loss is irreplaceable. And since we have been contemporaries of him, and we have watched him, and we have talked to him, and we have breathed the same air he has done, we walk the same earth that he did, it's a loss that our generation can never get over with. However spiritually evolved we are, at least I can speak for myself, there will always be a corner in my heart which will melt at the thought of.
Sunder Iyer. His nearly 16 years living in the presence of holy man Sri Sathya Sai Baba has brought him unique glimpses into the higher realms. Welcome to Souljourns. This interview, part of a long series, is the second of two interviews recorded on the same day, June 19th, 2011, in Elyria, Ohio, USA.
Satya Dhamma Prema Nityamayyunnina Pudami Talli Ento Pulakarinchu.
Sunder, good to be with you again. Thank you very much for sitting for this many interviews. We've done several now on a theme because you had such close proximity to Baba back in the early 80s. I want to begin by asking you to recount, like you did to us off camera a minute ago, your tenure at Prashanti Nilayam, at Baba's side. You started in what year and in what grade?
This was 1979 when the college was first set up in Puttaparthi. That's when I joined. I was one of the first batch of students to join Puttaparthi in 1979 June. March I was there for the summer course in Vrindavan. So I literally came into Swami's physical proximity sometime during the March of 1979. I had no idea I'm going to stay, how long I would stay, but I ended up staying until 1994.
15
July,
and a half years.
Little over 15 years.
A long time. So you went all the way through.
It didn't seem that long.
You went all the way through Baba's University as one of the first batch students, as they say in India.
Yes.
You graduated with a degree in what?
In Bachelor's in Commerce, so BCom.
And then you immediately set out to achieve your master's degree?
And then we did our master's in Banking and Finance.
And then you took some time off, or did you go right into the PhD curriculum?
No, from there, Swami handpicked 2 or 3 of us in each of these sciences for PhD.
He handpicked you?
He handpicked, yes. So I was very grateful. So he handpicked me along with 3 other students, and I continued my PhD in banking and finance.
Had
till
you planned all along to
1989.
get a PhD or not?
I'm sorry?
Had you planned all along to be?
Oh, no way.
Really?
I mean, with my grades in school and high school and junior college, as they would call it, for the 11th grade and 12th grade, I had no ideas that I would be studying so much. But my grades improved drastically after I joined Swami's institution. You had no distractions. Literally, you were all the time studying or meditating or thinking of something unique and profound. So it was. So you were from graduation to post graduation. I started getting A grades and O grades or whatever, and then so I got handpicked for a PhD. So 82 I passed my graduation, 84 post graduation, 89 I did my PhD, and then I started teaching as a lecturer in Baba's College for the next till 1994.
Back up a little bit. Who handed you your diploma the day you got your PhD?
Baba.
It had to be a very humbling experience.
Oh my gosh, I have those pictures. They're the treasures. He personally handed the degree to us, and he took a picture with us. He gave a medal. That was very beautiful.
Did he then ask you, after you took some time off, to return and become a teacher or a guest lecturer?
There was no time off. We were teaching. We were teaching along with our research. We were called research assistants then. So you also started taking classes and helping the senior professors with. You started getting trained as teachers, and then we automatically fell into the lecturers.
So you didn't get
category.
your first sabbatical after you got your PhD?
Not really.
To go to Paris for 2 years and think?
No. I have no regrets. No plans to leave. But then between 1990 and 1992, until I got married, those 2 years, I left the institute, joined the ashram. Swami asked me to join the Central Trust accounts, where my father was working, and I spent those 2 years with my dad. And then 1992, after the wedding, he says, no, now you need a good pay, you need to have a good salary, you're married. So he put me back under the University Grants Commission scale of the university and gave me the job back. In 1992 to 94, we were there until I left in August of 1994.
1994. So that leads me to a question that I should preface by saying, for those people who are dipping into these interviews willy-nilly, and they might be starting with this one, which is the third in this particular series, they wouldn't have heard us discuss in great detail that you were Baba's one of the attendants to him for 2 years, in 81, 82, and you explained to us how Baba picked you for that role because of your long-time quest for it. What I wanted to find out, though, that you didn't mention before, was how you received your first interview with Swami, with Baba.
That was very interesting, because we were about 300-400 students, and it all began a few months before that, when the hostel building in 97, as I mentioned in my previous interview, we were living in Mandir because the buildings were being built. The college and the hostel was being built, and we would have our classes in the East Rama High School and not in the college, because the college was not ready. And some of the classes were held in the dorms inside the Mandir, and of course Baba would walk into those classes and sit with us for the whole economics lecture, if you will, and
really?
Oh yeah, those are such fantastic moments. He would go to the back in the last row, and he said, "Nobody look at me." Everybody looked to the teacher, and he would sit and listen. And anyway, so the hostel building was finally finished, and in 1980 December, he said, we have to move into that building away from the Mandir. So that's about a couple of miles, a mile and a half away from the Mandir. And in order to do the inauguration of the hostel, we boys decided to come up with a grand program for Swami, because now that was our home, and we wanted Swami to come and bless our home, if you will. And so we came up with, what can we do to please Swami? And that was one of the first, probably the first, where boys actually came up with a dance program, which now is now the famous Bhangra dance, where you could actually we could actually beat drums and yell and jump in his presence. We were dying to do that after all the strict disciplined lives. So we said, all right, let's do this dance for Swami. We get to wear all those colorful dresses and do the Bhangra. And then, so we come up with various programs. And then one of the programs, they said, let's do something unique. So there was a talent search within the 300, 400 of us that were around. And I raised my hand and I said, hey, I want to do something. And they said, what do you know? And I said, I can do yoga on a rope. Because when I was young, I was learning that in Maharashtra, which is called Malkham. For those people who are in Bombay and Maharashtra, they would know this very well. You climb a rope 20, 30 feet up and then do the asanas, the yoga asanas right up there. It's fascinating science. It's an art or gymnastic feat, if you will. But I learned that and I said, I can do that, and we can get some pulleys from the hostel terrace all the way down 4 stories high, and I can go all the way up and do it. And they said, oh, this will be great. Swami has never seen this.
He'd love that.
He would love that. And he did. He actually loved it so much that later on for his 60th birthday, he had me perform it again for the much larger audience out in the stadium. And along with that, I said, I also know to jump through hoops of fire. And they said, oh my gosh, fire, now it's exciting. So we got all excited and made these programs because we were just a bunch of young teenagers wanting to do a program. So we said, all right, let's be as dashing and daring and put something out there. For me, having now gone to Puttaparthi, I wanted this physical recognition. Any chance to get closer to him. So for me, I saw this as a great opportunity to get closer to Baba, or for him to know, okay, this guy, hey, yeah, I remember you jumped through the hoops of fire. So I wanted that to register. Anyway, so we did some rehearsals, and I could jump through one hoop of fire with no problem, and we practiced, and we said, let's make it a small ring, that's 2 feet in diameter, just a little broader than my shoulder, so we make it look like, ow. If it's too big, Baba is going to say, oh yeah, anybody can walk through that. So we wanted to make it as exciting as possible. And there weren't any Google or internet those days, so we didn't have time to do any research. We were just going by trial and error method. So I jumped through one hoop, and then we said, oh, seems to be too easy. Why don't we have 2 hoops now? And then you jump through 2 hoops of fire, and that makes it more exciting. So we practiced through 2 hoops, and we did that. And I said, you know what, let's add a third one. Let's add the third one. And so I jump through 1, then you bring the second one. I jump through 2, then you bring the third one, and then I jump through all 3.
And onto a bed of coals.
I'm sorry?
And then jump onto a bed of coals once you go through all 3 of them.
No, fortunately I wasn't that crazy. That's a good idea though. I often go back and think of that incident as to how we begin. And I want to give that philosophical message simply because we begin with making an offering to God, and God is a prime thing, and then it all becomes all about the offering. Then the offering becomes more important than the God to whom is being offered. So for me, it was a typical scenario of, I wanted to do this for Swami, and then how could I do this better, and then it became all about what I can do, and how best can I do, outperform, it was all about me and what I can do. But you got to give me a break. I was 17 years old. So the day came, and we learned. Now, one thing we learned through our trial and error method was that you have these rags tied along the hoop, and then you set it on fire. So you got to dip it in diesel or kerosene, and then you got to let it dry, and then set it on fire. So to reduce a level of smoke. Now, if they were dripping wet, there would be a lot of smoke along with fire, and I couldn't even see the hoops, because especially when there were 3, and I had to see all the 3 to align myself before my jump. So it was all planned, practiced, all set, and Baba was supposed to come that day. The Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chenna Reddy, was coming, the Vice President was coming, and the Chief Minister was coming as a VIP, and Baba had invited all the devotees to come to the hostel that day. Ladies, gents, everybody. So they were spread out all the 3 stories and the terrace. So there were devotees all over the place. There was a special place for Baba kept, and so Baba arrived, and he was brought in, and there was a dance program that we did, and then I went and did the yoga on the rope, and Baba loved it. Every time I did an asana from there, for me it was far down, he would raise his hand and bless. It was very sweet of him, and I just loved being in the limelight of Baba, and I was like, yes, yes, I'm getting his attention, finally. And then came my part where I had to jump through the hoops of fire. Now, what had happened was, one of the enthusiastic volunteer boys came to me and said, Sunder, you had forgotten to put diesel and kerosene, so just 2 minutes ago I have doused all the hoops with diesel and kerosene. And I said, oh my God, we had done it 2 hours before, and we wanted them all to evaporate so that when we light up, it will be just a simple little ring of fire, not an explosion. But it was too late. They announced my name, and I told these boys who were going to hold these hoops of fire, just get some rags or something and cover your hands because it's going to be hot. They said, okay, Sundar, make it fast as you can. Now, common sense would have been like, forget it, just don't even bring up the show, because it's too dangerous for everyone involved, the boys holding the ring and especially for me. And as foolish as I could have been that day, I was wearing a tight neck sweater, because those days we didn't have sports, so nobody was ready for a sports, a fire resistant dresses, and so I had a tight jeans on, and I had I went to a boys looking for something tight, and one guy had a polyester tight turtleneck t-shirt, so I wore that since it stuck to my, little did I think, hey, this is polyester, I shouldn't go. Anyway, so so the show begins. I jump through the first hoop of fire, and the whole thing, of course, the moment they lit up, the crowd went, whoo, because it just burst up, and I could see tremendous amount of smoke, just as we had tried it earlier. I went through the first hoop, the 2 boys came and lit up the second hoop. I ran through and jumped through the second hoop. I cleared the second hoop, and when I just cleared and I got up, these 4 boys were holding those 2 hoops, 2 on either side. They turned around and said, Sundar, we can't do it anymore, it's too hot, I can't hold it. And I told them, please hang on just 30 more seconds, I'll do the third one and then we are off. So the other 2 boys came quickly and lit up the fire, and now there are 3 hoops for me, and Baba is on the other side of the hoops, so I can't see Baba. And so I run and I jump. So the guy who was holding it the first, these guys thought my legs had cleared and they let go. But what had happened was I had not cleared the hoop. So my feet hit the first hoop and everybody gave up immediately. So I land on the ground with all the 3 hoops entangled in my body.
All burning.
This is what is happening on this side. So I knew it had misfired, but it was all happening so fast. I went to the ground, I look up, and guess who was standing there? It was Baba, who pulled me out and rubbed all the fire sparks that were starting on my jersey. He was rubbing it off and saying, oh, Bangaru, 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 don't, I'm here, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. That is the beauty of the whole thing, and I tell these stories at Sai Baba retreats to explain the point that for me, I never could digest the fact that when he said, I am love, I have a love of 1,000 mothers, I love you more than I love myself. And I could say, yeah, it's easy to speak. I could never comprehend what do you really mean by it. At that incident, he was sitting in what we call the jula, the swing, the garden swing. And so the boys are gently swinging him back and forth, sitting all around him. There are hundreds of devotees all around, right? Though everybody was shocked, nobody could act at that moment. I believe when I started running towards to jump the 3rd hoop of fire, Baba who was sitting here, he jumped up from the jula, pulled up his robe and started walking fast, almost running towards me, straight. And people were too shocked. They were watching here. It was pretty dark, because of the hoops of fire had to be seen. We had dimmed all the other lights. And so Baba is running towards me. I'm running to the 3rd hoop. So when I jumped and I landed, he was the only one who pulled me out. And I can never get tired of telling the story simply to explain that he was having silk robes himself. He was wearing, the best of robes because it's the inauguration evening. He had the VIPs around him. He could have sent word to stop it. But at that moment, when the situation called, he just jumped right in. To me, that is selfless service. Right there. I mean, for him, with no thought of his safety at that moment, for him to come all the way And for him to do this, when there were 500 and more, maybe 1,000 and more devotees and students all around who could have jumped in, everybody was too shocked to even move. And he was the only one who acted. To me, that is his spontaneity of love. It's fascinating.
Did he have words with you later about attempting such a stupid move?
He started calling me the mad fireman. He said, "Fire boy, where's the mad fire boy?" So the next day, Darshan, he's calling, "Hey, where's the mad fire boy?" And he told all the others sitting in the veranda, "Oh, that was the boy, that was that mad fellow who wanted to jump through. Why did you do all this?" But chiding, but he was very pleased that I did this for him. Yeah. And for me, that was one of the best moments of my life. Apart from being very embarrassed by Swami, it was a very touching moment because he came and pulled me out of the fire, and then from then he started referring to me as a fire boy. So in a couple of months, then he one day said, "Hey, mad boy, come." And I went and sat for the interview, and that's how I got my first I call it, for me, personally, I call it my initiation, a fire initiation into the Sai fold. I had to kind of burn some dross, I believe. So I had to go through it.
Well, we all do, but not quite so dramatically normally.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I love these stories. I'm sure anybody watching this video feels the same way. I hope now that we have Baba's Mahasamadhi behind us, that there will be more stories forthcoming, because these stories need to be shared.
Oh, yes.
Your stories are so wonderful, and yet I'm only convinced to the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other boys and now adults, Sai men,
yes,
Sai women, who have personal first-person stories with Swami, the Avatar, and I hope to hear them all one day.
Yes. Ted, you wouldn't, there would be no end to it if you'll pick up every student who stayed there for a decade or more and listen to their stories. Each one of them will have a rich treasure of stories, just the way I'm telling you. It's not just I was the only one. And I want to make that clear, because it shouldn't be appearing that, oh, Sunder was the only one. It wasn't the case. Every student has something to offer. And even now when we meet at Baba's retreats, old students, we say, wow, did this happen to you? And we exchange stories.
Yeah. But from my
fascinating
viewpoint, there has to be a willingness initially to step forward.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And so I hope this is an inspiration to other people.
I hope so too. I hope so too, because the exposure and the affection the students had with Baba, and the angle at which we approached Swami and we saw him was completely unique. And I think devotees get a great pleasure, even non-devotees for that matter, to get a glimpse of Swami's personality through our eyes. Yeah. And that's a hope I hope to share that perspective.
Jody and I receive so much input from people around the world who watch these, and they say one thing over and over again that really touches us deeply. For them, often this is their personal darshan. This is their personal Sai study circle.
Wow.
This is the first time in a whole community, in a whole state, in a whole country, where they know no other Sai devotees. There's 150 countries of people who send us emails about these interviews. And that reason alone should give us pause that it's important to continue to spread the word of Baba from those the closest to him, because it becomes their darshan. And
yes.
Satsang, their satsang.
Yes.
Yeah, but in a way they're darshan too, because that's as close as they'll get to having Baba's personal darshan.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful.
I have one more little story about the spontaneity of his love, and it's fascinating how these are things. And this is one story where both these stories I was involved in. This one directly, and the other one was I was involved and witnessed to it personally. So that's why. I mean, I like telling stories where I'm involved, so that way it's 100% authentic.
Yeah.
So there is this, so Baba saving me from this fire or helping me out of the rings or whatever, however you want to call it, was done in the view of thousands of people. I want to tell you a story where nobody was watching this except 2 or 3 of us, and the humility that Baba has and the kind of love that he has. It's the most touching story I ever tell people. There was this boy who was, and I'm going to keep it short for want of time, so we get to cover a lot more. There was this boy from abroad who joined the hostel, and initially he had all this attention from Swami, so he was in cloud 9 enjoying his days, and then slowly Swami started putting him on his own routine, and then And the boy now started feeling the mosquito bites, and sleeping on the floor was tough. And as weeks turned into months, he was getting more and more frustrated about the disciplines and the rigorness of the Indian dorm situation. So much so that the warden of the hostel at one point was literally worried that this guy is spreading his negative influences to others because Baba was ignoring him. But the sports meet, by then the sports meet was on. We were the ones who first started playing games in front of Swami. He came and watched us, and we introduced the sports meet as one more occasion for Baba to come and enjoy. So the sports meet was on, and this boy finally got a chance to vent out his frustrations, if you will. And he was good in karate and things like that. So we said, why don't you handle a karate show? You take these boys, train, and you break bricks and do all this kick things. And he was excited. So suddenly he got this positive energy and he was practicing. Unfortunately, a week or so before, he hurt his leg so bad that he couldn't even walk. He had done something stupid, and one of his foot was very badly cut, so much so it was deeply bandaged, and the other foot was also swollen, so he was literally on crutches. So the situation is like this. Now this boy is back to where he was, and he was all the more negative and frustrated because there was one opportunity for him to get back into Swami's focus, because he had fallen out of Swami's focus, and he wanted to do something, and he thought, okay, this karate show back, again he'll get the namaskars with Swami and the chance of photograph, and once again Swami will come back to him. In that sense he was motivated, but now suddenly this hit him very hard, and he's now physically hurt. And not only that, he's not going to do his show, he's not even going to be able to participate on that meet. He couldn't even walk that bad. It was that bad. And so the situation is, that morning, he is in the sick ward. There was one room dedicated for sick boys, and whoever was sick or hurt would lie down there so that it's easy to monitor somebody who is not well in one place rather than have them scattered all over the hostel. My friend and I are talking to the warden on the steps of the hostel, and it is about a little after morning bhajans, and we are ready to go off to the college to do our teaching, and we suddenly pause to look at Swami's car driving down the road towards the hostel. All the gates are normally open when Swami drives by, and invariably he drives by. He doesn't come into the hostel because there's nothing going on in the hostel. Nobody's around, no boys, no students, everybody's in the college. So we just stood reverentially waiting for Swami's car to pass by, but to our astonishment, it slowed down and actually turned into the hostel gates. And we froze. We said, oh my gosh, Swami's coming in now? I mean, the hostel is not even clean. Usually he announces he's coming and we get things cleaned up. Not that it's bad, but I don't want to.
Oh, it's okay. You're boys. It's probably bad.
Well, it's still quite clean for 400 boys. Let me tell you. But then when Swami is coming, it's all the more you want to make sure, because he walks barefoot most of the time, and so we wanted to make sure there's no, normally we do that, but this time Swami is coming right now. So my warden froze, and we all just froze. Swami stops. The door opens, and he's out. He's holding his robe up, and he's looking at us, and he's saying, just waste of time, waste of time. He's looking. When he starts doing that, you are like, oh my gosh, something is just wrong here. Something is wrong here.
You were just standing and talking, and he said, waste of time.
We were looking and talking to the warden, and then suddenly saw Swami's car, and we just turned around, and Swami's car comes and stops. He gets out and says, waste of time, unnecessary talking. So we got, oh my gosh, we are in deep trouble. You don't want such kind of comments from Swami at all, because he will keep on pointing that later on. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got caught in the wrong place. Anyway, this is what's happening. So Swami went past us into the hostel so fast that we couldn't even, and we started following him behind. And he took a detour straight to the sick room. We started following him. He turned around. Once again, the stop sign came. Stop! He said, stay there. Waste, 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 he said. And he turned around. There is nobody in the hostel. There were these workers who were standing. They all were like this. Swami, Swami, they were all like this, just standing. He went straight past everyone, just 4 or 5 of us, and then went down the hall all the way to the sick room, which was next to the restrooms. Okay? He goes into the sick room, and the next thing we see is this boy. And mind you, Ted, he's as tall as you, 6+, and he was at least 200 pounds. A huge guy. Okay? Swami has his arm across Swami's shoulder, and Swami is his arm around this boy's hip, and Swami's taking him to the restroom. Waited there, brought him back. Okay, we were so stunned. And exactly as you're not able to make out what exactly went on, we were like that right there in that moment, and we were wondering, what is this? Swami's taking him, coming back. Didn't he have those crutches? What happened to the crutches? And then we hear the boy's version of the story. He gets up in that morning and he finds the crutches are not there next to his bed, and he wants to go to the bathroom badly. And since it's a sports meet, the crutches are always in demand. Somebody or the other is hurt. So somebody who could walk to the college had taken it and gone to the college, and it was not time for him to return it back because this boy was sleeping. Anyway, so this boy is lying on his bed. You know, this is his version now. He's lying on his bed and he's cursing the daylights out of this place now, saying, I want to go to the toilet, I can't even walk. What kind of a God man is this? What kind of a thing I've come and got me stuck into? This crazy hostel, this crazy lifestyle, this crazy God man, and I'm right here. So he was on the brink of collapse. And that's where Swami pushes you. He was on the brink of collapse. And that moment, when he made up his mind that this is total waste of time, I need to go back, the door opened, and for him, he sees Swami walking in. So he thought, he tells us later, he thought I thought I had a vision. But it wasn't. It wasn't vision because it was real. He told him, get up. He put his arm around Swami. Swami put his arm around him and took him to the restroom. Now this act of love, to me, can only be described as pure selflessness. There is omniscience on the one side. He's driving past the hostel. He knows this boy is in trouble. So he could have stopped, come into the hostel, rolled down his window and told us, hey, go take care of that boy. He needs to go to the restroom. We would still have been, I would still be telling the story to you with the same gesture, even if that was done. But at that moment, it wasn't about showing, I know what is going on. It wasn't about showing off your omniscience. It was acting right there, giving everything that you have to convince that boy that I am always there for you.
Beautiful, beautiful story.
No audience, no spectators, no TV cameras, no limelight, nobody to see these moments where he would give up anything and everything to touch or transform a boy. And that's all it was.
You know, it's one thing to read about accounts similar to these. I don't know that this has ever been printed up, but there are so many wonderful stories about Baba. It's another thing quite different and more dramatic to hear it told from a first-person eyewitness perspective. It brings to life these events that happened all the time at Prashanti Nilayam.
Yes.
That many of us can't even fathom. We'll occasionally read about them, and then we'll hear from you and others about the first-person stories of Baba coming over and in his own risk to his own form, pulling you out of a fire of rings, and it just adds so many different layers on top of the layers of understanding we've already been given as we pursue this. Which brings me to the question I wanted to ask you about what you were beginning to tell us off camera about prayer and asking, and to ask you to continue with that account.
You know, I've often, every single aspect of spirituality that I learned from Swami was a one-on-one experience. And that's why I value these very, very much. I learned the difference between asking and praying. And I want to share that perspective because it's very important. I often ask people, when you pray, do you ask something? And if you're asking, then is that asking praying? And one of the reasons why most of us don't get what we ask for answered is because we're asking and not praying. And I'm not merely playing with two different words, but I think for me prayer is very different from asking something. And when you're asking, you're just asking. When you're praying, you're not asking. For somebody who is spiritually evolved would probably can understand this, but as a youngster, for me, I had learned this firsthand. And it was such a powerful experience that taught me what true prayer really is, and how you sit in front of your God, your chosen deity, whom you ascribe omniscience, you ascribe omnipresence, you ascribe omnipotence and everything. And then what do you do then? If he knows everything, then what am I going to ask? Isn't it an insult to tell him that I need something? The mother knows when the child is hungry. She doesn't even wait for the baby to cry, because she knows exactly when the feeding time is. When, you know, she watches over the baby even when the baby sleeps. And when you ascribe that quality to God, then what do? Isn't it insulting for us to say, Swami, I need this, Swami, I want that, Swami, please help me cure him or her or me? And for me, that's a very powerful lesson. And this is how I learned it. He came to the hostel one evening and spoke about, on a Sunday, and spoke about the Soham Pranayama. Very rarely does Swami speak about pranayama and mantra or yoga. So that was one of the most beautiful discourses of Swami, where he expounded the meaning of Soham. And he said, why is Soham such a powerful mantra? Because the So means that is coming into you as you breathe in, and the Hum, that is you, I, is going away as you breathe out. So that is coming in, I is going out. That is coming in, I is going out. So, breathe in, Hum, breathe out. I think it's a very profound explanation. It's very simplistic in nature, but he said when you think of it, every time the ego, just every time you breathe out, breathe away yourself out and allow the infinity to come in. I thought that was a very powerful thing. And to me, and I haven't read about this perception of Soham anywhere else in the world, honestly. Anyway, so I heard this and I said, okay, I'm going to practice Soham, because I was so much into yoga by then. Every single thing I would take and practiced. And for some reason, I thought if I do this, maybe Swami would give me an indication that I'm on the right path. I was clinging to every indication and every blessing and spiritual blessing Swami was giving. So for me, I said, okay, what if I practice Soham now every day, and let's see how do I make Swami react to this. Sunday afternoon, I said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is when my class goes for darshan. Okay, and because you see all the boys coming in for darshan every day, but it's not the same boys standing in the first few lines. There are different grade boys get their opportunity. So it's Monday is the commerce of the first year graduate boys, the second year. So every week, you go in turns. So we knew that our class was, this was somewhere much later in the 80s, after Swami's room and all that, much later. So I knew my class was going in on a Wednesday. So I said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if I practice, on a Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if I practice 3 days. Thursday I get to stand first in the line, and I go and sit first in the row. I'm sure he's going to give me an indication that my prayers reached him. So for some reason I thought I was doing this to please him, not realizing that we do most of these spiritual pursuits for our own sake. We don't say, oh Baba, I've been praying for you so long, why is this happening? You didn't do it for him, you do it for your own self. But at that point I thought I'm going to do it to please him. So the next 3 days, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, I seriously, very ardently practiced the Soham Pranayama. I kept breathing in, so breathing out, hum. I was hardly paying attention in my classes. The nights I would hardly sleep. I would literally an austere tapas, if you will, I did for those 3 days, thinking on the 4th day, he's going to show me something, a real sign that I did it. And I wanted that from him, okay? So Thursday evening, I came first in the line, went right there, sat right next to the birthday boy. The birthday boy usually sits right next to the front pillar, if you remember. And then I was sitting right next to him. And so even before the darshan began, I was so full of myself. I said, you know what, Baba, I don't want any little actions here and there. Just looking at me and all is not going to be enough. Or coming and standing in front of me is not going to be enough, because that way I can touch your feet. That's not a sign. I want something out of the world. Now this is asking, literally.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted something out of the world. You have to show me something out of the world that I did this sadhana and you accepted it. So I wasn't ready to take just a look or a smile or a nod or, I said, give me something. I don't know what it is. I want something. I practiced so hard for the last 3 days. Come on, you have to do this. He comes out for darshan, comes to the birthday boys, and he picks up the chocolate and throws it around. Not one falls on me. And he looks around and starts walking out for his darshan. And for me, that first thing was, okay, not even look. He kind of completely ignored me, and he walked away. He finished the ladies' side, he was coming down the gents' side, and I knew the darshan is kind of getting over. He's picked up people for interview. So in all that commotion in my mind, I was thinking, okay, Swami, okay, let's have a compromise. Maybe you can just look at me and smile at me. How about a smile? Honestly, this is exactly what is going on in my head. okay Swami, at least just give me a smile. I know you're busy, you got people for interview, you're going to go in. The reason why I was panicking was, as soon as the darshan gets over, I sing bhajans, so I have to get up and go into the bhajan hall. And once I go into the bhajan hall, there is no telling that Swami is going to come and talk, because the bhajan starts and then Swami comes in just for the arati and walks away. This is the only chance where physically there could be some communication taking place. So he comes and he starts his last few steps at the end of the darshan, and I'm looking at him and he completely ignored me. And he came and stood right in front of me, and then he spoke to a boy a couple of rows behind, asking, where did you come from? And he told the VIPs, oh, he so-and-so's come from there. Oh, call your parents. So the boy gets up and looks for his dad, and he's calling his mom and dad. All the time Baba is here in front. And now this is where the true lesson began, because I'm looking at Baba, staring at him. And now I'm saying, okay Baba, forget smile, forget everything. Just look down at me. Come on, can't you just look down at me? And I'm staring with fiery eyes, sitting straight. Now it doesn't need a god to know somebody's sitting down and staring at you. You and I do that. You walk in a shopping mall, if somebody's looking at you, you would wonder, why is this so-and-so staring at me? It doesn't need to be divine. So it would have taken him a second just to look down, but he didn't. And all the time I was screaming. The distance was so close, less than 3 or 4 feet between me and Swami's face. I could literally see through his nostrils. He was standing so close. He was talking to that boy, waiting for the boy to call his parents, and all the time my head was bursting with this. Swami, please, 3 days, I didn't speak to anyone, I was practicing Soham. You have to look down and acknowledge. Please acknowledge. Swami, can't you hear me? I mean, you are right in front of me. Can't you hear me? You have done this before. You have to do it now. There was absolutely stoic face with Swami as far as I remember. There was no expression at all. And then he turned around, and to my dismay, he walked, picked up the people for interview room. And one by one they're going. I'm like, Swami, just one glance, one little glance. I've come down to that much now. He went and he started shutting the interview room door. And usually, even before he shuts, he kind of peeps at the boys and then shuts the door. Sometimes he gives a loving smile, or he just mocks a face or shuts the door. Things devotees don't see usually. But I was hoping at least a look before he shuts the door. He didn't. He went and shut the door. And I was left stranded right there. At that moment, I remember that moment, suddenly everything went shh. From all that screaming and yelling at Swami in my head, it became completely silent. And tears were almost welling up my eyes with, it's over. I just thought it was over. That's it. I have to go now to the bhajan hall. 3, 4, 5 seconds passed. Probably 10 seconds, I don't know. And then suddenly the door, the noise came, and all the devotees were getting up. Suddenly there was a hush. I looked around, and I was about to get up because I had to go into the bhajan hall. And then suddenly there was a hush. I looked, and I saw the interview room door open. And by this time, the birthday boy had got up and gone away. So I moved into that corner pillar just for the 2 minutes to ease myself and get up and go. He comes out. Apparently, one of the ladies had not still come for the interview. Mm-hmm. Now, always God's actions are very subtle. Okay? So he comes out and he says, hey, lazy, come on. And so now that woman gets up and starts walking to the interview room. And at this point now I'm sitting under Swami's feet. My mind is completely blank. Now, no more... Sorry, go ahead.
What? Is he in front of you?
No, he's standing there. There's a small step up, and I'm sitting down. He's standing right just outside the interview room door, and he's calling the lady, and they're coming, and she's coming to the interview room, and Swami is telling, "Kya lazy, lazy," and all. He's letting her in, and then just before he followed her back into the interview room, it took only a second, and by then I was completely quiet. I was just watching. My mind was completely tired, physically, spiritually. I was exhausted after all that praying, quote unquote. I was just watching. He turned around. He had materialized vibhuti inside the interview room, so his fingertips were full of vibhuti. So he turned around, not a word, but he turned around and put that vibhuti on my forehead, walked into the room and shut the door.
You must have just died.
I'm still alive, aren't I?
I don't know.
I take home a fantastic message from that. When we think we are praying, we are so full of ourselves and what we want and what has to happen to us that our prayers never reaches the divine source within us. It doesn't. And I think all the emotions and the hysteria that was going on in my head, I thought was prayer, was actually all the chaos and the static that I was creating, a strong field for God to even answer. It wasn't even reaching him, though physically he was inches away from me. Yet, when my mind silenced itself, he knew exactly what I wanted, and the answer was right there. And to me, I take that even today, even in my most intense moments of life, when I'm so tempted to pray, I silence myself, because I think the Divine Mother knows your innermost desire. And the only thing that stops that from materializing is us. It's not the Divine, it's us. And God says, Swami says, God's light, grace is like sunlight. It's all there for you. You have to only open the door. You have shut the door. And by our praying and asking, whether it's for healing me or somebody else, whatever it is it's asking, if we are learning to accept it in complete silence, I think our innermost desires will automatically manifest. And to me and Maya, every time we share this, that comes as a predominant thing. And so I shared this story in Swami's presence in Kodaikanal.
In Swami's presence.
I shared this because it's one of my favorite stories. And I shared this with Swami, and I ended the story saying how Swami says, and this is how I learned, that it is only in the depths of silence that the voice of God can be heard. And to me, it was in that silence, suddenly, that communication took place.
In your silence.
Yes. It's only in the depths of silence, because when I was praying, Swami, please look at me, all there was noise.
You
and then
up all the circuits.
The interview
to burst.
The interview room was shut, and I was blank. In that silence, the communication took place automatically. He knew what was wanted. But here's a catch to the whole thing, and this quote is not there in any book out of Swami's mouth. So I say this, and it's only in the depths of silence the voice of God can be heard. I say that. I bend down and touch Swami's feet after my talk. And then I get up and Swami says, good speech, and he repeats what I said. It is only in the depths of silence the voice of God can be heard. Yes, sir, but, there's a but to it? But it is also in the depths of silence God can hear your voice. I think that's so powerful. The quote that we read is, in the depths of silence, the voice of God can be heard. That means you can hear God's voice. But he's now telling us, it is in the same depths of silence that I can hear your voice.
Meaning your inner voice carries your true message to God's ears.
In the depths of silence.
In the depths of silence.
And to me that is a fantastic riddle, because you can't hear a voice when there is silence. So what is the voice you hear? And when you hear the voice, is there silence or is there no silence? Mm-hmm. This is a koan for people to think. A riddle that would take a lifetime to think. What is the voice of
statement? Yeah.
What is the voice of God, and how can you retain the silence in that communication? And to me, that is true prayer. If we are able to attain that depths of silence, communication or communion takes place instantly.
Sunder, two more things. And one is that you prompted me to ask something that you didn't touch upon except in a fleeting moment. How did it come to be that you were sharing this story in front of Baba?
This was in Kodaikanal when Baba handpicked a few of us, like he did every year. Later on, many other batches of students have been with Swami to Kodaikanal. That was his summer retreat, where, if you will, where he had lesser devotees and a more relaxed time.
Well, go on about that for just a second, because I've been told, and Jody and I found this out firsthand, that he was more relaxed Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba in Vrindavan, in Whitefield, which we experienced and enjoyed thoroughly. Yes. But then I'm told he was even more relaxed in Kodaikanal.
In Kodaikanal, I haven't experienced Bhagavan or in Vrindavan, because I was totally in Puttaparthi. I was a Prashanti Nilayam product, if you will, not a Vrindavan product.
Which is a different campus, a different ashram.
Which is a different campus and atmosphere.
Right,
and yes, Baba would be in a completely different mood and a frame of mind when he would be in Vrindavan. There is no doubt about that. but he's more of a god, darshan, and Puttaparthi. There it's more of, lot more, from what I've heard from students, it's a lot more intimate, lot more freedom with Swami and
how is Kodaikanal
students.
contrast between the two of those?
I don't know. That's why I said, since I don't know Vrindavan,
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to contrast that. But Kodaikanal was a heaven on earth, because there there's a bunch of 10 or 15 of us spending a whole month in Swami, living with Swami, in and out. So he goes into his bedroom door and shuts, and we got our sleeping bags right outside his bedroom door.
Oh, that's
so he
great.
opens the door, you could actually step on our hands or face sleeping. So we are literally sleeping outside his room, and that's the heights of proximity that, if you will, you could have with Baba, and that you just feel like a dad taking his sons out for a vacation. So he says, oh, there's nobody getting up early in the morning. There's no Suprabhatam for you. All of you get up late. I want to see, it's very cold. Nobody getting up in the morning. Make sure you all have hot water showers. No cold water showers. So he's very sweet and very loving. He makes sure you eat and eat and eat. Oh my God, he feeds you so much. And so you spend a whole month with him doing this, a whole month. And so every evening, afternoon, he would sit and say, okay, so now what do we do? We just sit and chat. So Baba would come and tell stories. He would get some of his old devotees who would visit him then there, because they wouldn't come to Puttaparthi. They come once or twice a year, because after all those initial years of extreme proximity. And Baba would say, okay, tell your story, tell your story, and things like that. It's fascinating how you listen to them and the older stories of Baba, which these devotees would say. So in those evenings, he would make me speak. And so every evening for that whole month, I spoke something or the other, along with 2 or 3 other boys.
And the stark reality is, we sit here in Elyria, Ohio, in June of 2011, talking about these most beautiful stories, is that there will never be another Kodaikanal session.
Yeah.
Or Vrindavan. And his Mahasamadhi and perpetual resting place in the Mandir and Puttaparthi
That's it.
is all people have. Does
Yeah.
it still strike you from time to time, as it does me and Jody, and I'm sure Maya too, as a stark reality that we can't quite wrap our arms around yet?
That loss is irreplaceable. And since we have been contemporaries of him, and we have watched him, and we have talked to him, and we have breathed the same air he has done, we walked the same earth that he did, it's a loss that our generation can never get over with. However spiritually evolved we are, at least I can speak for myself, there will always be a corner in my heart which will melt at the thought of.
And what is it that would cause your heart to melt the most? Was it a smile, a whimsical look, a whack across the head?
Everything about him, everything that he stood for, his life, his simplicity. And that's what touched me the most. He could have the way he would leave his car and ride half the distance with us in the bus. Not a very comfortable thing.
Climb into the bus instead of
He would
the
climb
car.
into the bus, and he did recently. I saw some pictures of him in a plane with the
I
boys.
saw those.
That was
Yeah.
another delightful. I'm sure that would have been a delightful experience of sitting with Baba on the same plane. I know Maya's father did that, but it's fascinating. Those moments are going to be cherished forever in the hearts and minds of people who had those opportunities. And to me, I want to take that and use it for my own spiritual evolution. And it helps me. Every moment I spend with him has helped me evolve to where I am today and where I see myself going tomorrow.
We have time for one quick final story. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm reminded of Harold Kushner, a famous American rabbi who wrote a book about why bad things happen to good people. And you reminded me earlier of a story from Baba along that same theme.
Yeah, I will try and keep it as short as I can. I have always have difficulty in concising my stories because they're so. I kind of relive those moments when I say that, and I tend to stretch it exactly the way I experienced. But I'll do my best. There was a time when I was in Baba's room, and my father had a very nasty experience back in Haryana. He was robbed and beaten up, and he almost died in the streets. And I've always known my dad to be an extremely honorable man till the last day of his life. An extremely honorable person, and I'll talk more about it in the next interview of ours, in his relation with Swami, and that's a whole different aspect of Swami, the more divine aspect of Swami. But then when I, those days you didn't have emails, exchanges, so I received this letter from my mother and my father, but he's kind of saying, yeah, I'm okay, but this is what happened. I felt immediately a pang of, what am I doing here when, they're trying to struggle and eke out a livelihood, and I'm just enjoying Baba's company. I felt a sense of guilt within me, and I never had the courage to ask Swami about it, or why did it happen. But for me, a more philosophical question came to my mind. I said, so why do bad things happen to good people? Here is this guy who's devoted to God. He does his 3 hours every morning prayer. Ever since I have been
3 hours.
From 3 in the morning till 6, and that's when I would get up when I was 6 and 7 years old. So it would be constant, and he was so strict in his sadhana and all that. Wasn't God supposed to protect him? Why do these things happen to these kind of people? And then that gave me to ask questions: why do saints suffer? What is the motivation then? If we are turning towards God and values and good things, and then bad things are going to happen to us, then hey, why do we even do this? What is the meaning behind it? I took that question and I wrote a detailed letter to Swami as to why Swami, why is it? How does one make sense of this? I wrote it, I read it, and I thought it was a bit too philosophical for me to, hey Swami, here's one big philosophical question. I kept it in my pocket thinking, let me think about it, kind of a thing. I kept it in my pocket. Swami walked by that day and he picked that letter as he went and just walked away. He didn't even ask me what it is. He just picked up that letter.
Saw it in your pocket and took it.
Yeah, he just picked it up and walked. I'm like, oh my gosh. I let it be. And then later that night, I knew he had read it because that letter was shredded and it was in the basket. I made sure, is my letter there? It was there. It was shredded. So I knew he read it. And at that moment, but he didn't show me any signs that he read the letter or any smile or anything. He just, for me, I thought maybe he didn't understand such a English, I used to write to him in English. I thought maybe Swami didn't understand what I was asking. Anyway, it's okay, I forgot about it. I wouldn't even venture to seek asking Swami because I didn't know where I was with Swami on this question. Whether he was angry with me, upset with me, he didn't understand what I wrote, I didn't know. I just left it. A couple of weeks or so passed by, and I'm telling you this background so you're able to correlate, but where I was that afternoon, I couldn't. So I'm right there washing vessels after Swami had his lunch, and he would go for his afternoon siesta for an hour or so. So everything is very quiet, and we clean up the kitchen and lunch, and I'm cleaning the vessels, and I'm coming down to a last little glass where you pour all the sambar and rasam, and it's yucky kind of a thing. So I was going to open the tap to clean it when I suddenly hear, hey, aim trachis now, what are you doing? And I looked behind, and right behind me, Swami Baba had crept. And I was like, oh my God, I was so scared. He kept right up to me. He said, what are you doing? Chi. He looked into the sink. There was this glass full of these, the leftovers. He said, oh my God, look at that. What do you people eat? And he kind of joked, and then quickly, he said, clean it. And he opened the tap for me. And as he opened the tap, the water started filling this vessel, and all the dirt started coming out, So he said, look at this, look at this, look at this. How the dirt is coming out. Look at all good water going in, only dirt is coming out. And then he says, you see this and you're scared, so he closes the tap, and you stop doing good water. And look at it now, good and bad mixed, all confusion. And then he said, when there is bad inside you, you pour good into it, then all the bad will come out. Don't be afraid because the bad is coming out. Oh, there is no point doing good, and you stop it. Now there is good and bad mixed and there's confusion. What do? This is how he's talking to me across the sink. What do? Open the tap. Do good, do good, do good. Every time he did do good, he kept opening the tap harder and faster and faster. And then now the good water was pouring in, and in a minute, all the bad had come out. There was nothing left. The glass was empty. It was just good in, good out. He says, chudu. Now he's like a 5-year-old. See. No more bad. Only good in, good out. Good in, good out. Good in, good out. So in Telugu he said, "Me bhaya brantilo," means your fears, your delusions are coming out. Let it come out. Do more good then. Do more good when it is coming out. Do more good. Eventually, what is good? Good. Good in, good out. Good in, good out. Good is God, God is good. Good is God. He kept muttering, good is God, God is good, good is God, and walked away quietly. And I just stood. Yes, good is God, God is good. He kept on muttering and walked away, and I just stood at the sink with my answer right there. I mean, this couldn't get more zen than it was that afternoon. For me, if something is happening bad, it's all the more reason that my illusions are coming out. Maybe it's expressing itself in the form of sickness of my near and dear one. Who knows? What are these 3 zeros that's coming?
Stay with it.
Presenting
Stay with it.
and be more intense
Yes.
in what you're doing. So eventually, it'll be only good in.
Don't push it away. Welcome it. See,
I love that story.
That's a great, great story. Sunder, this has been so much fun. This is the third out of goodness knows how many we're going to do. And we look forward to sitting down again for part 4 of this ongoing series, Living with Sai Baba, from June 2011, looking back to the early 80s, late 70s, and beyond that. More will be revealed. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Thank you.
What was your dad really as an example because of his problem? Do you take one final lesson to people who are big spiritual?
I think we have to face the past consequences of our karma, and it's a simple logical reaction of action. Every action has a reaction. So if I'm going to throw the banana peel on my driveway, there's a high probability I might slip on it and fall the next day, right? So when I'm slipping and falling the next day, it's because of my past karma.
Right.
But then because I fell down, that doesn't mean I get discouraged by cleaning my driveway. So if I've got a chance today to start doing good in my life, to be selfless, to think of others and put others before my wants, and when I start doing that, I'm still not escaping what I did yesterday. I still have that potential slip on that banana peel because I threw it yesterday. So when I fall down, instead of saying, "Oh my God, I'm doing good now. Why am I still being paid?" I should look back and say, "You know what? This is all the past. I've got a chance now to build a bright future." So once the past is purged, all is there. All that remains is just good.
Is that the same as saying, or would you also be saying to yourself, I put the banana peel there. I'll not do that again.
Yes. Oh yes.
Okay.
I won't be doing that banana peel again, but I have to accept that I would slip.
Anyone could have fallen.
Anybody could have fallen. My wife could have fallen. My kids could have fallen. So my action, whether I know it or not, is going to affect my kith and kin. So when it happens, then I don't turn to God and say, "Oh my God, it's my action that's caused it."
And so that's...
So any action that we have taken in our past, based on our illusion, based on fear, based on our adherence to ego, and based on playing the victim role, every action is going to play itself as a reaction in the future.
And every reaction offers us the opportunity not to do it again.
Exactly.
To learn
Yes.
its lesson.
As long as we have the courage to accept it as, this is my own, it's a purging, it's happening, but my fresh actions are going to be as selfless as possible, as good as possible, as free as possible. So if my thoughts and my words and my deeds are now set on the path of liberating myself and people around me, it's not that I'm going to escape what I did yesterday, but I'm on the path. Sooner or later, if not this life, the next lifetime, I'm going to be completely free. Completely be good water in, good water out. I can't wait for that to happen. So the more evil comes out of me, the more negative things happen to me, the more it should inspire me to say, "Hey, good, let's get rid of this as fast as I can." So I have to do more good, more intensely, so that comes out as fast as possible. I think that's a fantastic lesson. It's very powerful. It's very powerful.
God is good.
God is good. God is good. Good is God. God is good. Good is God. I love that. I love that beautiful way.
I can see him doing that.
I love the way he teaches some of these lessons very simply. Very simply he does it and walks away. It's fascinating.
And we get to hear it today. And everybody who watches this gets it.
Yes.
Thank you.
సత్యధర్మ ప్రేమ నిత్యమయ్యుండిన పుడమి తల్లి ఎంతో పులకరించు సత్య ధర్మ ప్రేమ నిత్యమయ్యుండిన పుడమి తల్లి ఎంతో పులకరించు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు వివిధ సౌఖ్యము హెచ్చు వినుడు భారతీయ వీరసుతుడ వినుడు వినుడు భారతీయ వీరసుతుడ సత్యధర్మ ప్రేమ నిత్యమయ్యుండిన పుడమి తల్లి ఎంతో పులకరించు సత్య ధర్మ ప్రేమ నిత్యమయ్యుండిన పుడమి తల్లి ఎంతో పులకరించు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు విశ్వశాంతినిచ్చు వివిధ సౌఖ్యము హెచ్చు వినుడు భారతీయ వీరసుతుడ వినుడు వినుడు భారతీయ వీరసుతుడ సత్యధర్మ ప్రేమ నిత్యమై